Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayomi, Bava Basra Mem Hey. We are holding on Mem Dalad Amid Beis, 4 lines off the bottom of the Amid Gufa. Amar Rabban. We have learned Amar Rabban Bar Shmuel in the name of Shmuel, Mishmei de Shmuel. So we had this yesterday. Reuven sells his field to Shimon without achrayis. He's not warranting the deal. Okay, if you lose it for whatever reason, I am not backing up the sale. So what happens if somebody else comes along and challenges Shimon's ownership by claiming, well, it's really mine, it's my parents' property? Question. Can Reuven, the seller, the vendor, who sold it to Shimon, who's now in trouble, can he come back up Shimon? Can he vouch for Shimon? Can he testify on Shimon's behalf that in fact it belongs to him and not to this stranger? Ein meid loy aleho. He may not offer testimony on his behalf on this field. You know why? Because there's a conflict of interest. Because Reuven has some potential gain on the horizon if in fact the field remains in the hands of Shimon, his buyer. You know why? Because this makes it available to Reuven's potential foreclosure. Meaning if Reuven had borrowed money from a bank prior to selling this field, that bank now has a lien, has a shibud on this property. In case there's a default, the bank can come collect it. So making it available, making it Shimon's, it's basically making it available for collection to Reuven's creditors. He's offering it to his Baal Chayv potential. So he's considered Noigea Be'edus. He's no longer a neutral party. He's biased. Asks the Gemara Hechidami, what exactly happened here? What are the circumstances behind this deal? If Reuven has his own property available to be collected by the banks in case of a default, then they'll go collect those because that's the halacha. You may only collect. You have to first collect available properties and then only then go to nechasim mishubadim that are being held by buyers. So Reuven has absolutely no gain by having Shimon maintain this property because in any case, it's not going to the bank. Rather, the bank will collect Reuven's own free and available properties. Okay, let's say Reuven doesn't have other properties for collection. Then, then either way, what is he gaining by providing Shimon with this testimony and allowing him to maintain ownership on this property? Look, either way, he wouldn't be paying the bank anything. He doesn't have anything to provide the banks. So again, he's not involved. He has no benefit. He's not negea be'edus. So what's the problem? You're right, he doesn't have other properties that the bank can access. But he still has gain. By facilitating this process, by arranging that Shimon will maintain ownership on this property, which ultimately can provide the bank with a property to collect from. You know why? You know what Shimon gains from it? Because ultimately, by doing so, his loan to the bank will be repaid. He doesn't want to remain with an outstanding loan. It's not something acceptable. It's not something he wants to live with. The Amar, because he's thinking to himself, Lo nicha, I'm not interested. I'm not comfortable. The lihavi, that I should be considered a loive rasha v'lo yishalem. It's a pasuk in Mishlei. Only a rasha borrows and doesn't repay. I don't want to be stuck with a loan unpaid. So he has some gain by arranging this thing. Well, says the Gemara, okay, but at the end of the day, he owes Shimon for the field that he just lost to the bank on account of Reuven's loan that wasn't repaid. So either way, he owes somebody money. So either it's the loan that he owns to the bank or the property that he just caused Shimon to lose. Either way, he's owing somebody. So what's he gaining? Well, why is that called Negea Be'edas? He really doesn't have anything from this whole testimony. So if ultimately, with respect to the other person, Shimon, who just lost his field because of Reuven's default, he's also considered a loive rosh v'lo yishalem. So he doesn't really have any gain from this testimony because either way he owes somebody money. Who, right? Says the Gemara, the Amar Le. The answer is no, because Reuven can always tell Shimon, look, Too bad on you. That's exactly why I sold you the field without achrayis. I'm not taking responsibility. So his preference is paying back the loan to the bank. That he's obligated to do. But the fact that ultimately Shimon will lose his property on account of, it doesn't matter to Reuven because he's not responsible. He sold him a field without achrayis. I'm potter if anything happens. So I'm not called Eloi v'Rasha v'lo Yisham. I didn't borrow anything from you. I'm not responsible. I'm not obligated to you. So that explains this halacha. Again, what is the halacha? When Reuven sold a field to Shimon, and Shimon is encountering trouble from some fellow challenging his ownership, Reuven cannot vouch for Shimon because there's always a concern that perhaps he's doing so to make it available and accessible to his own bank, who may collect on account of a defaulted loan. Continues the Gemara with a new story, with a new halach. Machriz Rava. Rava declared, V'itema, some say it was Rav Papa. Hear ye, everybody listen to this important halach. The Salkin Leila, those traveling up from Babel to Eretz Yisrael, Udanachsan Tato, and those traveling down from Babel to Eretz Yisrael, from Eretz Yisrael to Babel. Everybody listen to this halach. Hai Bar Yisrael, we have a Yid, the Zavan Lechamer Yisrael Chavre, who sold a donkey to his friend, another Yisrael, who's now encountering trouble from a guy who's claiming to own this donkey. He's claiming that it was his, it was stolen from him by Reuven. V'ka'asi akum, along comes a guy and snatches the donkey from Shimon, claiming that it was his and it was robbed from him. Do you know who the halacha is? The mafzi leimine, that in fact Reuven, the seller, must reimburse the buyer, and then he'll take the guy to the court and deal with him, because we assume that the guy would not have taken it if it wasn't really his. Okay? But we have two conditions. V'lo yamor, this is only correct, ela she'enoi maker bo, provided that Shimon, the buyer, doesn't really have first-hand knowledge. She bas chamoira, that in fact this donkey is an offspring of Reuven's homegrown donkey. Because otherwise, if he knows that it was raised in Reuven's barn, he knows personally that it's really Reuven's. The guy has no justification for what he did. So in that case, Reuven is not responsible to reimburse him. Right? But otherwise, if he knows firsthand that this animal was raised in Reuven's barn, it's his, then of course Reuven does not have to compensate him. Condition number 2, it's only correct. If the guy did not grab the animal and the saddle, meaning he claimed the animal as his, but the saddle he left with Shimon. Being an honest man, he says, listen, I'm only taking what's mine. So here we have somewhat grounds and basis for his claim, and Reuven has to, look after Shimon and then deal with the guy. But let's say, you see the guy was just being random. Honest Leila, the day Ulu Uchva. He grabbed the animal and the saddle, which clearly belonged to Shimon. So you see, he's going overboard. You see lack of integrity. So in this case, Reuven does not have to compensate Shimon. You see, he's just robbing. So according to Rava or Rav Papa, you sell an animal to a Yisrael, which was now taken by a guy who's claiming ownership. Reuven has to compensate Shimon, the buyer, and then deal with the guy, provided these two conditions are met. Ameimar disagree. Ameimar Amar, Afilu leka kolhani lo. Even without these conditions, he's not responsible. You know why? A guy is a ganav. My time made the yad. Everybody knows the stam of gechavim. Typically, a guy is anasu, grabs, he'll steal. Shenamar, the pasuk says, Asher pm diber shav v'yimina mimin shakar, are full of lies and dishonesty. So, just because he repossessed this animal, it means nothing in terms of reality. Okay, let's go back to the Mishnah. Uman ein lo chazaka. Uman is a craftsman, professional, a tailor, a mechanic, right? So, if the mechanic should claim that the car in his possession is really his, it doesn't mean anything, because we all know cars belong in the mechanic's place, right? Of course, it's his customers. It's not his. Amar Rabba, but we have a condition. Lo yishanu. This is only correct. Ela shemasha lebi edim. If you handed the item to the craftsman in front of witnesses, you gave him the shirt to clean, you gave him the car to repair. In this case, the Uman can't turn around and just deny it. So now, he has no chazaka. And Rashbam explains, Rabbah works with the following precept. He holds that when a person hands something to another person in front of Edom, to clean, to fix, to watch, the halacha is that he has to return it to him be'edem as well. Tzorach lahachshalei be'edem. Because it's clear that the owner is looking to do this in a formal, verifiable manner. You can't just say, well, I gave it back to him all the night. You can't do that. Look, he was careful to give it to you in front of Edom. You have to return it to him in the same manner. So, barring any witnesses who will testify that he returned it, he will not be able to claim that he returned it. So in this case, he has no grounds or basis for any claims or denials, and he's not believed to say that in fact he owns the item. So the halacha in the Mishnah only pertains to a case ela shemashal be'edem, when he handed it to him in front of Edom. Aval mashal be'edem. Let's say he delivered the car to the mechanic without Edom, just privately. Here the halacha changes. You know why? Since the mechanic, if he wishes to lie, he can just deny the entire thing. I never got it from you. Or even if we see it by him, he can say, well, I bought it from the other person who bought it from me. So he can just deny the entire arrangement. So likewise, if he claims and he says, look, yeah, you gave it to me, but you sold it to me. So he's believed. Right? And Rashbam again explains that certainly if we don't see it by him, he can just deny it. He can say, well, you gave it to me, and I gave it back to you. Or you can say, it never happened. You never gave it to me at all. Right? Or you can say, or if we see it by him, you can say, look, yeah, you gave it to me, but I bought it from you. Right? He has all kinds of, right? He has a cocktail of possible claims that he can make. But, and that's only because, as we said, he was Mosar l'shalei be'edim. He gave it to him without Edom. Okay, so according to Rabbah, the halacha in the Mishnah only applies when it was Mosar be'edim, when the owner was careful enough to have Edom, to have witnesses present when the item was delivered. In this case, the fellow can't just come up with claims. He has to he's obligated to return it to me with Edom. Anything less than that, he's guilty. Normally Abai. Now Abai disagrees with this idea. He says, look, even when an item was delivered in front of Edom, it doesn't mean that the fellow has to now go and make the effort to find Edom when he returns the item. You don't have to do that. So Abai asks on Rabbah, Omali Abai Ihochi. If that's true, that you're concerned about all kinds of claims that this person can make against the owner, afilu be'edem nami. So even in a case where there were Edom present when the item was delivered, the craftsman can still claim the same thing. Since he could, if he wants to lie, he can say, I gave it back to you, and we have to take it as fact. We have to believe him. Likewise, if he claims that I purchased it from you, he has ne'emanos, he's trusted. Amalei Rabbah. So Rabbah responds, no. Misavers, do you really think hamafkid etel chaver be'edim, that when there were Edom present during delivery, eino yitzarach lahasali be'edim, he's not required to have Edom there upon returning the item, which would substantiate your kasha Abaye? Lo yisakadaitach, it's incorrect. Ella, I hold hamafkid etzel chaver be'edim, when there were Edom present during the delivery of the item, tzarach lahasali be'edim. In this case, he's required to have Edom present when he delivers it back to the owner, and anything less than that, he's accountable. Okay, so if we want to summarize the two approaches to the Mishnah, it's like this. Rabbah holds that the only time the Mishnah holds him accountable, the only time the Uman can't just claim ownership, is if there were Edom that will testify that the owner delivered the shirt to the dry cleaners to fix, to clean, or the car to the mechanic. And that would compel the craftsman to have Edom upon returning the item. Anything less than that, would not go. Whereas Abaye disagrees, and therefore Abaye holds that the only reason why he's not believed in our Mishnah is not because there were Eidim. Rather, as Rashbam explains, it's because we see the item by him. We spotted the car in the mechanic's shop. And we know that he's a mechanic who takes items for repair. So he can't just claim it as his. We all know that he's a craftsman. This is what he does for a living. So it's unrelated to Eidim being there or not being there. The fact is that we see it by him. He's not nema to say it's mine, or I purchased it, because otherwise every mechanic will just lock up his shop and say, well, all the Mercedes found in my shop are suddenly mine. You can't do that. It goes against the whole grain of his profession. Okay, so that's the machlokes in the Mishnah. According to Rabbah, Eidim are required. According to Abaye, it has nothing to do with Eidim. Rather, it's about the item being spotted in his possession. Meisvi Abaye. Comes Abaye with a kasha on Rabbah. We have a brisa. Ra avdo biyad uman. A slave owner notices his slave in the hands of the uman, a vocational teacher teaching him a trade. With talisa biyad koives, or his shirt in the dry cleaners. Amar lo my tiba etzlacha. So he says, sir, what's my item or Eved doing? Could you explain to me why it's sitting in your possession? Well, he says, what do you mean you sold it to me? You gave it to me as a gift. Is he believed? No, we don't accept that. Because he's an uman. Uman has no chazak. But but let's say he modifies his claim and he says, look, I was there when you told such and such to sell it, or you told such and such to give it to me as a gift. And that's why I have it. Dvar kayam, we believe him. Why? Why is this any different? If he's an uman, we understand that he's holding it because of his profession, because of his craft, in the context of his business. So how could he claim? What is the difference between the first case and the second case? In the first case you don't believe, in the second case you do. Rabbah explains Rabbah like this. But there's a guess of Rabbah. Seifa, case number 2 is speaking that the item, the shirt or is not in the hands of the uman. Rather, it's sitting in somebody else's possession. The owner approaches that other person. What are you doing with my thing? I gave my car to the mechanic. What's it doing by you? The fellow responds by saying, look, I bought it from the mechanic. And I know that you told him to sell it to me. So here, the other person's believed because he has a migu. He's not a craftsman. He's not a professional. He's just a layman, right? He could have just said, you sold it to me directly. Instead, he was being honest, stating the facts as they were. I understand you gave it to the mechanic, but then you asked him to sell me the used car, and that's why I have it. He's believed. We're speaking the item is in the hands of somebody else, not a uman. And the uman and the other fellow is responding to the owner by saying, you instructed him in front of me to give it away, to sell it. We believe him. Since he could have just said, look, you sold it to me directly, and since he's a regular person, he has an emanus. He's not an uman, he's a regular person, of course he's believed. Likewise, when he claims that in fact, I didn't get it from you directly, I got it by way of the middleman, but you told him to sell it to me, then we believe him. Okay, so we've reconciled the two halachas in the brayos. Okay, now let's go back to our question. Let's remember, Abaye was quoting this brayos as a kasha on Rabbah. Katanimias. So in any case, what is the brayos telling us? Reisha. It starts by saying Ra. So he noticed his item in the hands of the uman, and that explains why the uman has no chazak. Hechidami. What exactly took place? If we have an Edom who can testify that they bear witness to the fact that he gave it to the uman to fix, so then lamali ra. Why do we need the second element of Ra, why do we have to see the item currently in his hands? You don't need that. Nesi Edom and Ishkal. All you need to do is bring Edom, who can testify that the car was delivered to the mechanic. That's all you need. He can't just get rid of it without Edom. If you would have returned it, he would have returned it in front of Edom. Anything less than that, he's chayav, according to Rabbah, right? El Abdullah Edom. Oh, apparently we have no Edom to speak of. V'chira mia tafaslei. And as long as he sees it, as long as he noticed the item, that's all he needs to get it back. Tafaslei, he gets it back. That's a right to Abaye. That Ra is what determines. Spotting the item is what determines the halacha, not the Edom. No, says the Gemara, Lo'ilam Dika Edom. Certainly we're speaking that the word Edom. That's one point. That's one requirement. Edom that saw you deliver the item to the mechanic. So you can't just, deny it. Provided that currently we see the item by him. So that preempts another possible denial. That I just returned it to him. No, we see it by you. So we have to address two separate potential claims on account of the Uman. Right? So even Rabbah agrees that there are two elements, two components that are necessary to preempt a chazukah claim on account of the Uman. Because remember, we're trying to circumvent two possible claims. One possible claim is, I never got it from you. What do you mean? There are Edom that saw. Okay, fine. But I gave it back to you. Well, we saw it in your possession. Okay, asks the Gemara, Ba'atu the Amris. But you, Rabbah, just finished telling us that all we need is the Edom. Once you have Edom at the point of delivery, you don't need Edom. You don't need to see it in his possession because we know that you can't return it without Edom. So Rabbi says, yeah, you're right. I'm going back on what I said. I'm changing my mind, meaning I agree that we have two requirements to preempt a chazakah, Edom and Re'iyah. Masav Rabba l'suyila Rabba. Here comes Rabba with a kasha on Rabbah. Person handed his garment to an uman to fix, to clean. He finished his job. How much do I owe you? Well, we have a disagreement. Uman says you promised me $2. Well, the owner says no. I only promised you $1. Who is to be believed? Well, it depends. As long as the garment is still in the uman's possession, since he could just hold it back and claim that he, that he bought it from the owner, so he's believed in terms of how much he's owed. So the owner has to prove his case. The uman is believed. But once he returns the item to the balabais, so now it's under the balabais' possession. How much does he pay? It depends. Bizmanai. If it's the end of the day when you pay the workers, so Chachamim know that Balabais is overwhelmed, he's distracted by all his workers that are coming and converging on him for their payment. So not necessarily does he have a clear head, a clear mind. Who says he remembers? So there's a halacha called Nishba B'Noitel. The craftsman has the ability, has a schus to make a shvuah, to swear, and collect his claim. Over as money, once the time of payment is gone, is over, is behind us, things are calmer. So here we don't have the element of the balabais torad, and here we say, look, you have to prove your case like any other claimant. The worker, the craftsman, the dry cleaning service, who's trying to extract money from the owner, all of a right has to prove his case. That is the halacha. Let's analyze the halacha. What are the circumstances behind the story? If we have Edom that were there when the owner handed the item to the dry cleaners, let's the dayanim, let them go take a look and ask the Edom and ask them what happened. Presumably they were there and they heard what they made up. They heard the price, so the Edom can come tell us exactly what's going on. Oh, apparently we have no Edom Mesira who were there at the time of delivery. So now, although we see the item here, it doesn't help us much. Uktani uman mehemen. So what do we see? That the craftsman is believed. The Brisa says if the uman still has the item, he has a migu, he can claim ownership. So the balbayis has to pay him up. Migu di boy amalei l'kucha biyadi. Since he could potentially claim ownership, can claim that he bought it from the owner, so he's believed on account of the salary as well. He's believed on the agri, on the fee. So this proves Rabba's point. Unless we have Edim, an Uman has Chazak. Like the Edim says, well, you're right, there's no Edim here. But don't prove anything. Good loy ra. We're speaking that nobody noticed the item in his possession. So he could just claim, don't know, I don't have it. Like, whatever happened. He could just deny the entire episode. That's why he's believed. But if we actually spotted the item in his hands, of course, perhaps the Allah is like a bayi. That is sufficient to preempt any chazaka claim on account of the Uman. Mosiv Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, here comes a final kasha on Rabbah, who says Edim are required to preempt chazaka. Uman ain't chazaka. The Mishnah says, an Uman has no chazaka claim. Now let's make a diuk in the Mishnah. An Uman can't claim ownership. We know. Chances are he has this item in the context of his profession. Uman hu de'in chazaka ha'acher, but an ordinary person who's not a craftsman, who's not a mechanic, who's not a dry cleaner owner, yesh chazaka. He can claim chazaka. He can claim ownership on an item that he has. Now, hechidami, what exactly is going on? What are the facts behind the story? When we say an Uman can't and a regular person could. Idik Edim, if there are Edim that this item was handed over to the craftsman to fix, or an Edim that saw Reuben give Shimon his friend something to watch, right? Acher amayesh lechazaka. So even ordinary people, Reuben and Shimon, not craftsmen, not Uman. How could we have chazaka? If we have Edim that I gave it to you to look after, here, take my car for a week, I'm going out of town, watch my car. How could you just turn around and claim ownership? If there are Edim there that know that I gave it to you to look after. Edelavdi leka Edim. Oh, apparently we have no Edim in the equation at all. Rather, we see Ra, we have spotted the item in your possession. Okay, so if you're just an ordinary person, a random person, and not an Uman, so yeah, you're driving a car, we assume it's yours. Right? Uktani Uman in the chazaka. An Uman has no chazaka because he's a mechanic. Of course he's driving around cars. That's his business. That's his profession. So what does this tell us about the halacha of the Mishnah? That the halacha of Uman in the chazaka pertains even when there are no Edim. As long as you have Ra, as long as you see it in his possession, that's enough to preempt any denials, and he can't just claim ownership because we know you got it to repair it. Tufta the Rabba to Yufta. That's a kasha on Rabba. A final kasha on Rabba who says, well, Uman is believed unless there are Edim. No, we have a diuk in the Mishnah that there are no Edim and still he's not believed. This proves Abaye's point. Edim are not a required element in this equation. Rather, the determinant factor is one and only one. Ra. The item is seen, was spotted in your possession. You can't just deny. You can't just be kaifer hakoil. So once we have that as a fact, that you have it, the question is how you got it. So an ordinary person can say, look, I bought it. We have to take that as fact. But an Uman, we know, accepts items for repair, so you can't just turn around and claim ownership. Okay, let's summarize today's daf. We had a story of a person who sold a karka to Shimon without achrayis. He can't turn around and vouch for him because there's always concern that he's interested in doing so to make it available for his bank. And the next story of a fellow who sold an animal to another yid. A guy came and snatched it. One shita says he's responsible, provided we meet those two conditions. Now Meimar disagrees. A guy is a robber, and a yid is not responsible to reimburse his victim. Uman in the chazaka, we have Rabba's approach, and we finalize with Abaye's approach. Even in absence of Edim, as long as it was Ra biyada, he's not believed because we assume he got it in the context of his profession. All the best to you, and Atzlacha Rabba.